They are the fabulous learning nerds. Cause if you're tired of the old ways of getting it done, you've got the fabulous learning nerds. Scott and Dan are making it lots of fun. The best ideas that you've ever heard. So everybody spread the word. They're gonna keep you discerning. The fabulous learning nerds. Fabulous learning nerds. Oh yeah!
And we're back for another fantastic episode of your Fabulous Learning Nerds. I'm your host, Scott Schutte. And with me, as always, you love him. He's got a harem. It's Dan Coonrod.
Dan the man.
How you doing, Dan?
I'm fair to Midland. I feel like this is getting out of hand. A harem? No.
A harem?
No.
A harem?
No.
For sure. Absolutely
not. No? No.
Fan club?
Fan club's okay. I don't know.
Oh.
But yeah, no. Harem. No.
No on the harem, but okay on the fan club.
Yeah.
All right, cool. If you would like to design the Dan Coonrod harem / fan club t-shirt, you could email us at learningnerdscast@gmail.com. We are light on the emails, Dan.
Oh, come on, people.
Like light as in none.
That
like
hurts.
We have none
That
email.
hurts.
Well, no, it just is what it is. We're new. So, anything we can do to entice people. I think that having fun in that way is great. But you want to know what's awesome?
I do. What's awesome?
You know what's awesome is we have a special guest with us today. Again, like 2 weeks
I'm so
in a row.
excited.
That's pretty awesome. I totally love it. And I think our audience is going to love our special guest today, a former colleague of myself and just all-around badass learning nerd. Everybody, please welcome Abby Dawson.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for that glowing introduction.
Thanks for coming, Abby, on late notice. We really, truly appreciate
100%.
it. And just like By the way, when did that become a thing? When did 100% become a thing, Dan?
Oh, I have no idea. Like, put me on the spot. I don't know. It's a thing.
Hey, Abby, when did it become? You know what I'm saying? It wasn't too long ago. Maybe even last year when we were saying, "Yeah, you're right, groovy, cool, or whatever." And now it's 100 or more % is the greeting that we will give to when I agree with you.
I mean, it's very encouraging. I guess that's good about it.
It is encouraging, but it's just something I notice. I notice silly things like that. But, that's silly. What our audience really wants to know, though, Abby, is all about you and what's your deal?
Hey, man, what's your deal?
All right, Abby, go ahead in 10 minutes or less, if you could, ma'am. Give us a little, what's your deal?
So I guess my deal is I love creating resources and trainings for sales teams, and that just comes from my background. I started my real professional working career working in restaurants, so that was like a really good introduction to working directly with people, finding out who people were when they felt like they had you kind of under their thumb, but also really learning how to work really hard. And then from there, I moved into working in sales for a mobility carrier. And it's incredible how much you can learn and how quickly you can learn what people are capable of, who's willing to help you, who's willing not to help you, and how valuable your resources are. When you're in a position where you're working with tech, you're working with customers face-to-face, and there's a lot of money on the line. So that was a great education to come into. From there, I moved into creating training, communications, sales enablement resources for another mobility carrier. And it was my first inroad into working with corporate. And it was incredible to see how many people had never worked in the front line, but were there to create resources for them, help guide them, and met some really incredible people. There are some people who are really passionate about helping sellers, helping people grow as sellers and succeed. And then there are people who are just very disconnected from it. And what I found was I really wanted to be one of those people who helped. So, yeah, and that's kind of how eventually I came to meet Scott. I stayed in that corporate role. I moved from training kind of into a marketing role, but found that I really didn't lose my passion for trying to create sales resources, even marketing. So,
yeah, no, and you're a rock star. And we love you, and that's great. And I was super stoked. You're like, oh my God, I love your podcast. I want to be on. And I'm like, how about tonight? And you're like, cool. So that's awesome. Most people would be like, no. That's really dumb.
That's really dumb. Oh my God.
You're a real trooper. I'm keeping that in. Well, you're a trooper, and we appreciate it. And I'm super excited about what we're going to talk about tonight. But thanks so much for joining
so happy to be here.
The Human Fan Club and myself. So that's awesome, Abby. We're going to go ahead and I don't have a good transition, so let's just go ahead and we'll move into the topic of the week. How about that? All right, Abby, you came to me and you said, I want to talk about, what do you want to talk about again?
Sales enablement and training.
Sales enablement and sales training. I think that's really cool. Because I got to be honest, like, okay, so this is, I help manage, actually, if I think about my entire career, I haven't had time to play in the space that gets all the love. Like your leadership development space, your HRD space in training, those people, they get all the love. They're the ones that they create award shows around. And I'm not saying what you're doing is not good. It's important. It's good. It's very, I don't have any other word, Dan. It's very sexy in learning and development. It really is. It's like, oh, we have this leadership program. It's just awesome. Check it out, right? And so it's really sexy. So what happens is, like, when your boss goes, could you apply for a training award so we can win some hardware and talk about how good our stuff is? Sure, not a problem. We'll go out and we'll do it. And you go look for recognition in the sales training space, and it's like it's almost non-existent. I haven't found a lot of it. That doesn't mean it's not there. By the way, if you support that and run awards for sales training, please email us at learningnerdscast@gmail.com. I would love an email like that. But Dan, did you find, and Abby as well, have you found that to be, it's kind of like the redheaded stepchild of learning, and I don't know necessarily why it is, but it kind of feels that way to me at any rate.
Yeah, I've always been surprised. And I'll tell you, when I realized I was coming on to talk this afternoon, I was so excited because I was like, I don't think people really get what a big deal it is to work in sales training. I mean, you're 1 degree separated from the customer. How many other corporate roles are out there where there is 1 degree of separation? Those people have a huge impact on what gets put in front of a customer and how. And I think it is underappreciated in a really significant way.
I 100% agree. So I just this past year I came into a sales instructional design role, and man, like the things that worked in all my other roles and all the other content that I built in all the other places, they just don't work in the sales world. And changing your mindset and changing your framing is difficult.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. So, Abby, why don't you go ahead and you brought some notes, which is good. We appreciate it. Talk a little bit more about your passion around sales training and how you think about it.
I think it really starts with how hard sales is. I've worked in a couple different sales groups. I've sold several different products and services. I've never found it gets easier. It's not easier to sell cheap stuff. It's not easier to sell expensive stuff. The real challenge is, do you have the tools that you need? And do you know how to complete the job? And anything I can do to make that easier for somebody, it really brings me joy. I think that appreciation for how hard their job is. If you don't have that, I don't think you should be in sales training. I think that maybe there's something that's a better fit. Maybe you should be planning those corporate awards ceremonies with lots of lights and bells and whistles, but maybe not sales training.
So you mentioned that it's hard. Talk to me a little bit about that. What makes sales training harder than, say, other types of training?
As a seller, you're going to be face-to-face or maybe over the phone with a customer, but you're having very intimate, in-person interaction with somebody. You're asking them to part with some of their money, and they're, in a lot of ways, putting all their faith in you, that you are being forthright, that you're knowledgeable, that you are going to give them something that they're excited to have. I mean, if you're selling a product that doesn't need a salesperson, that's amazing. But most companies need sellers in some way, shape, or form, and they depend on those salespeople doing a great job under pressure over and over and over again. And that's a tough ask.
Dan, you recently waltzed into the sales training, sales enablement world. How do you feel about the challenges that you might face, and either piggyback off or add value to what Abby just was talking about?
No, it's like I said, it's coming from a completely different place. For years, my focus has been in like new hire and in new hire training and like onboarding people into new roles and stepping into this sales sphere, especially to a company that's like getting their sales feet, so to speak, underneath them. And a group of people who maybe don't want to sell has been probably the biggest challenge of my career. And figuring out, how do I do this and how do I still keep it human? I think that's a huge, huge thing. I've only ever had one sales job ever in my entire life. And I was selling pictures, like family portraits that you see guys like in malls and stuff at those little kiosks. That was me. I was selling those and like hitchhiking and bumming around the country to do it. And so like the idea of doing sales, that was my experience. So I was like, oh, I'll never do sales. I'll never do sales. And when my leaders came to me and said, hey, we really think you'd be the right fit. We really kind of need what you've done in this space and we need you to bring it over here. I was like, oh, are you sure? Like, really? Like, okay, yeah, I'll do it. But wow, okay.
So Dan, I have a quick question for you. Did you keep the tiger backdrop from your photography sales experience?
I grew up and my mother did a lot of photography, so I've been in that world for a while. So there are so many pictures of me out there, and I never share them, and they are best left forgotten.
Did you keep the tiger backdrop? That's all I.
I think.
And can I follow it?
I think I artfully dodged that question about as well as I could. So no.
Okay. I get it. I get it now. You can neither confirm nor deny that you kept the tiger backdrop. Okay, great. We'll talk after the show. That's not a problem. I would have to agree with you. I think it's one of the reasons why there's not a lot of recognition for the role, because it is kind of difficult. And I think, there's very few professional salespeople out there that one can really point to as, I really love selling. Like you've got your car salespeople, right? And then you've got, oh my goodness, real estate professionals, right? Those people are really into what they're doing. Maybe even furniture sales, but a lot of sales opportunities I've had in my career in supporting those people, and so they get what they need to be successful, are what I would classify as the reluctant salespeople. They took a job, they thought it would be fun, and then, oh, by the way, you're going to need to sell stuff. But wait, what? Right? And that's real challenging, right? So how do you take the Oh, goodness. I mean, it's easy to train on stuff that's exciting. It's not so easy to train on stuff that maybe I may not be all that interested in. I mean, I'm interested in it, but I'm not. And especially in a world that's mostly on commission, right? So a lot of, at least our audience, there's not a lot of commission involved in it. That changed decades ago. That makes it all that more challenging. Abby, thoughts?
Yeah. All too often I've heard over the years when we're putting sales trainings together for people from the corporate side, they have to do it. It's their job. Like they need to take the training or they need to start doing what we're telling them to do. And I've never felt like that was a good enough reason. If that's all you have to fall back on is they need to do it because it's their job, you must have a really fundamental misunderstanding of what it means to be in sales.
You know,
Dan, what's your thoughts?
So, like, I've been pretty fortunate. The audience that we're building material for, like, a lot of them are getting additional support when they make sales, payments, etc. And so that's not been like something we've had to wrestle with. For us, like, the big challenge is like, even with that additional support, so many times, like, the folks we talk to are like, but I don't want to. I don't want to do this. Like, And so trying to, like, wrestle around with how do I convince somebody to do something, even if we're going to pay them extra and they still don't want to. Like, how do I help them see the value? How do I help them connect this with, like, what they're doing and build something that they can use to go forward? Like, that's been my big, like, head scratcher. Like we're going to give you extra money. We're going to give you extra stuff. Why don't you want to do it? And then having to, like, talk to those people, wrestle through that, connect with those people who, like Abby, like you said, who are like, you know, they're talking to the customer. They're one step removed, you know, like we're one step removed. They're talking to the customer. Like, how do I get them excited about it?
Right. And
Yeah.
can I skip around? Abby. Can I skip around, Scott, to one I was going to talk about later, but fits now?
Sure. I was going to segue into, hey, you've got this thing, right? So you've got this job, and you get to make training materials to help people sell. What are some ways that you can be successful in doing that? Does that transition work for you?
That works, yeah.
Okay, great, cool. Otherwise, I have to make up another one.
So, yeah, I think the tools are important. A lot of it is your strategy behind when and how you use those tools, because your ultimate goal, to your point, Dan, is to build some trust with these sellers so that when you bring them something, it makes sense to them, it's of value to them, and you can't just think about it as nuts and bolts. It's a strategy and an equation of what kind of material do I bring, why do I bring it to them, when, and in what format, which I think is why you see all of this growth in the kinds of tech we bring learning materials in. This is why so many people are excited about things like AI and these different kinds of immersive courses that can be taken at different times, different ways, because we're just trying to find a way to build that trust with these people, trying to meet them where they are. Because the end goal really is for them to want to listen. That's one of the biggest challenges you'll face is you can put it in 1,000 ways, you can say it 100,000 times, you can pay them, but you have to want them to care.
100%. I couldn't agree more. As we've created content last year and into this year, like, the biggest thing for us is, like, how do we make human content? Like, it's so easy for people to hear the word sales and think of sales and just start thinking in dollar signs and digits, metrics, numbers, dollar signs. And as soon as you boil it down to just that, like, people's natural reaction is to just kind of, like, go and, like, scream away from it. And that should be anybody's reaction. So, I mean, I'm a humanist at heart, so everything boils down to how do we connect with other humans, but especially in sales, like, this has to be a human-focused training. It has to be a human-focused experience because people don't trust machines. People trust people.
People trust some people.
That's true. That's true. Very true. Very true.
All right. Well, I think all that's fair. For me, one of the things that I think about when I think about sales training in general is, how do we make the complicated simple? Because I think that one of the things that I've learned in sales training and I learned, or I thought I'd learned in sales, is that if I don't make it as simple as possible, there's a human tendency to not stop. Does that make sense? So like, we're going to get to yes. And then when I get the yes, I'm going to keep selling, right? You know, like when I get yes, I'm going to keep selling, oh, this and oh, that and oh, this. And for me, one of the things that's been helpful is this idea of, hey, listen, I need to somehow translate, and you guys can disagree with me if you want to, but I need to somehow translate the, what good looks like into something that's tangible and relevant so that I feel better about it. Because I think that, those people that perform poorly, the reluctant salespeople that are performing poorly out there, one, they're not getting coached or supported in where they're at. They're just can you fog a mirror? Yeah, I can. Okay, great. Go sell this, right? And we'll wait till we get somebody else, right? But then so many other people just they really struggle only insofar as either A, I don't understand the product knowledge to be successful, or B, this is just a really uncomfortable thing because I don't know what good looks like. So thoughts on that?
You bring up what good looks like and what good sounds like, and as people are trying to find like what good looks like and what good sounds like, sales is it's one of those places, like I talked about, it was like really tough for me to figure out, like wrap my head around it. And so many times what good looks like and sounds like for different people is different for different people in the way they sell. And a lot of times, like, I can teach you how to troubleshoot. I can teach you how to like go through a process step by step by step. And as long as you're following the process and you're looking for the end goal, you're going to get it. Like, do this, do that, do this, do this. Boom, solution. But sales isn't that way. Because I can say, okay, cool, say this, say that, say this, do this, say that. You'll get a sale. Because I get a sale. But you won't get a sale. Because I said it differently. Maybe I inflect my words a little bit differently. Maybe I dramatically pause in different places. Maybe what works for me, in fact, not maybe, what works for me is not always going to work for somebody else. There are some rules and some tips and some tricks and some things that you can impart on people to help them. But like, I mean, the real secret is going out and failing a whole bunch and then telling people to be okay with that.
Abby?
I agree wholeheartedly. And I think giving your sales reps some credit and teaching them the why behind you do the steps so that they can personalize it and build it and make it their own. If you don't understand why you're positioning something in a certain way or why you're asking the questions you're asking, you're not going to be successful. That's going to lead to frustration. It's going to lead to distrust of the process. You're not going to want to be engaged with any other trainings further down the road because they haven't worked for you in the past. So I think you really have to give people a chance to try to grow in their role. And you do that by really educating them instead of like force feeding them.
Yeah, that's a really good point. One of the things that you brought up in our pre-show discussion was this whole idea of product knowledge, right? And where that, who's got the onus around the product knowledge. And one of the things that I'm really interested in is to hear you talk a little bit about that, and also to be talking a little bit about, do you have to know everything? So how do you feel about that? That the onus and responsibility around product knowledge and transfer and the ID role in all of that?
I kind of have some radical ideas about that. Radical is what I've been told by the people I've positioned it to, but I created a sales training a few years ago, and I went to my sales team and I said, look, I know that historically our agenda has been teach them everything. but it doesn't work. So my philosophy is teach them how to use their resources so that when they need to know it, they can go educate themselves. Because there's no way they're going to retain product knowledge on everything we sell from one training session the first 3 weeks they worked for us. It's just not going to work. So it goes back to, again, like creating a structure where they can learn how to be successful, learn how to help themselves, build some trust in their resources, and give them some credit that they're capable of doing this themselves.
Teaching them to fish.
Exactly.
I love that.
So, do you need to be an expert in order to do that?
Yeah. I think you need it. If you're not the expert, you better know some experts, because the strategy of stitching pieces together so that somebody can find them later, of laying out the breadcrumbs, is tough. It is really hard. You better have a really good understanding of how people think and solve problems in order to expect them to be able to do it and to teach them how to do it.
Scott, I think I've made mention of this to you before, but the scariest part for me of instructional design isn't figuring out everything to put in, but it's being brave enough to not put stuff in and figuring out what not to include. And to Abby, to your point, you have to know. You have to know the material inside out, because you have to be in a place where you're going to be like, you know what, I'm going to teach you this, I'm going to teach you that. And the connective tissue in between, you'll pick up. You'll be able to go get.
Yeah, I struggle with that a little bit, and I'll give you my reasonings behind that, but because I feel that if you're really good in instructional design and understand, how to put stuff together, and trust us, folks, we'll get into those topics where we're going to talk about how you do that, because I think that there are some folks that are doing the best they can, but probably could use some help, right? Man, you do this for a long time. Like, I don't necessarily need to know everything about your widget and what it does. Right. So if my marketing partner can come to me, or my sales partner or business partner can come to me and say, here's my widget, right? I need you to help me sell it. Okay, great. Well, what are the three most important things that it does? What are some things that we could talk about? Why should people care? That's probably the most important thing. Like, why should people care about it? We should be able to I feel like you should be able to translate that without being just this super uber nerd like us, and really be able to just tear that widget apart and put it back together. That being said, I mean, nothing beats product knowledge, but quite frankly, what I've seen over and over and over again is the opposite to that, where people are so into the product. I mean, how many times have we seen field trainers who are so knowledgeable in the program just go right down the rabbit hole answering all the questions about it, and the audience checks out? Like, they're completely checked out. Like, save for the one poor fool who asked that question 20 minutes ago and got the lecture about the answer, right? That doesn't happen with a facilitator or an ID person that's just not some uber nerd around the widget and how to sell it. So, thoughts on that?
I'm going to jump in, because I think what you've just described is a bad facilitator, not somebody suffering from knowing too much product. And having been a bad facilitator and being knowledgeable and wanting to show off my knowledge to build trust, I know where that mistake comes from, but that's a bad facilitator. It goes back to trust. Abby, you brought it up. And I think having that knowledge and being able to build courses that when somebody looks at through the lens of experience and goes, yeah, that checks out, that helps build trust. So the next time you push out a course and they see that course, they know that good knowledge is coming from those courses, which means they're going to buy into the next one, and then they're going to buy into the next one. But as soon as they can find the fault or see the point where it's oh yeah, no, that's just super generic, they're going to check out. And then a checked out learner is a learner.
Oh, no, they're your enemy.
And Scott, to your point about just tell me the core things that matter. That's the stuff you put in the training, and then all of those product details that you think are going to cause somebody to check out, you put in those other resources that you allow them to access when they're ready. Because that's how you get someone passionate and engaged about what they're selling without completely overwhelming them with this knowledge dump that there's no way they're going to retain anyway.
Yeah, that whole just-in-time learning component, and that's where sales enablement comes in, right? So can we create tools that are designed to be used with the customer that, really make me sound like an expert and build trust with my customer? I mean, that's the sweet spot, right? So finding ways to, whether it's a register mat that's got a couple things that I can point to, or the tried and true brochure, like here's a brochure, and you don't need to memorize everything in the brochure. That's the brochure's job. Like the brochure is there to help you. It is supposed to support that engagement. And if you're okay with saying, well, gee, I don't know, let's take a look at the brochure, you and your customer have an opportunity to learn together, and those are awesome opportunities, right? And I've never had an opportunity where I've learned with my customer where I didn't close that sale.
I will say, I think it takes a special salesperson to be able to look at somebody like, hey, you know what? I don't know the answer to that. Let's pull it up and let's look at this brochure or this tool, or let me do some research and let me get you that answer. Because I feel and I fear that most customers at that point, because, we only get them for just a minute, are going to be like, okay, no, that's cool. That's fine. I've got to go do something else. I don't want them to do a data dump. I don't think anybody wants them to just be like, let me tell you all the facts as fast as I can before you go. And I feel that a lot of that data dump happens not because we've told them too much or given them too much, but because all they know is in this box and they see the sale slipping away and they're just throwing things at the customer like, which one of these will stick? But a truly knowledgeable product person is going to hear what the customer says and be like, ooh, I know what you need. You don't need any of this. You need to hear this. And you can't get that without a deep product knowledge.
Abby, how do you feel about that?
I think it comes down to really knowing your sales reps, what they're capable of, and when you're asking too much too. And being able to communicate that back to your internal sales teams, and being an advocate as a trainer and saying, let me tell you what my concerns are and where I think our limitations are. I think that this is not something that's going to be solved with training because of X, Y, and Z. And maybe we need to approach it differently. Maybe we need to have some sales reps who are super knowledgeable who we transfer these detail calls to, or maybe this product, the way it's set up, doesn't make sense and we need to rethink it, and it's never going to be solved by training. That it's too much of an ask for a sales rep to know all these details or get them fast enough to a customer to satisfy that short sale. I think you have to be a good advocate for your sales team and for what you really are capable of doing. Sometimes we just take on too much.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. So the big, $20,000 question is, so how do I get there, right? So I'm a new salesperson. So I'm going to be taking Abby's fabulous sales training. It's going to have all the right information in it. And when I'm done, with the allotted time or whatever, am I an expert now? Probably not, right? So how do we, what's the secret sauce? How do we grow that awesome salesperson? What are some things that you would recommend, Abby, as part of that experience? Because I think that all too often we design, we ship, we pray, and then we just come back later and see what's going on. And I think there's this in-between step, and hopefully Abby's picking up on what I'm talking about. She's going to explain it for everybody right now. Go ahead, Abby.
I hope so. But I think you just have to have realistic expectations of what your sales training can accomplish. And you start that with understanding who you're hiring, what their background is, and what you're asking them to do. And then you can try and meet those needs. So am I creating sales resources for somebody who's been through extensive training on how to sell? That they've been through weeks of selling philosophy courses, they understand strategy, they've sold before? Or am I trying to train somebody who's 18 years old who sells phones on the weekend? How vested are they in this training process? How much time am I going to get with them, and where are they starting from? And then balancing that against what is my corporate sales team asking me to teach them, and how much time do I have to do it? It's always a balancing act. And if what you think you can do in the time given based on where the person is starting from doesn't seem realistic, you've got to be able to communicate that back, set clear expectations about what you think you're capable of doing, and offer, some kind of a plan. If you really need me to have this person be knowledgeable to this degree on a product, and I think I can only get them 50% there, let's talk about a training program over the course of the next 6 to 8 weeks where I feel like I can get them there. And is it okay to take that time? It's a lot of communication, a lot of educating yourself, and really working with a team. So that same kind of trust that you're going to build with those sales reps, you've got to have that same trust building development with your counterparts at corporate.
Dan.
No, back to the 100%. No, I 100% agree. Shot in the dark approach to learning and learning strategy and sales strategy, that's not going to help anyone do anything. Abby, I think you're 100% right. You have to know your audience. You have to know your salespeople, what they're capable of. And if you can't bring in the people who are at the level you need, how do you get the people you have to get to where you need them? Yeah, I agree.
I'm gonna add on a little frosting on top, and some percentage points, right? So it's 127%, right? For me, it's all skill practice role play, right? So you have your session, you train product knowledge, you walk away and you think that people are gonna be ready. I don't care how good you are, you always learn something from good skill practice. So I think those people, those coaches and leaders in position post and learning events are the ones that take advantage of skill practice. And I know, Dan, as you and I take a look at ILT or instructor-led training that your team builds, where you're given massive amounts of time, you lucky son of a you-know-what, that's great, where the skill practice becomes the thing, right? That is the thing, that safe environment. We're going to make mistakes, where we're going to go ahead and have discussions, where we're going to go ahead and learn from each other, and then continue a continuous environment of constant, never-ending improvement, a KNI environment where we're always going to get better and better and better. I just think that is so important and such an integral part of what we do within a sales training environment. And again, those leaders that understand the value of practice and good practice, right? Not fluffy dub practice. Let's make it hard. I'm not going to always be the nice customer in my skill practice. I'm going to be that nasty customer, because those people are probably more than likely going to be the ones in your store too. Anyway, that's the frosting that I would add on to that. So, Abby, any other last thoughts that you didn't get a chance to talk about because I talked too much, that you want to make sure you're conveying to our fabulous audience?
No, I would just say there's always this tendency for when the S hits the fan that I've seen is to say we just need more training. And I would advise people to be really good advocates for their sales reps and their training teams, to always be suspicious of that quick ask for more training, because it's the fastest way to erode the trust you have with your sales reps. So always be willing to say, this is not a problem training can solve, even though that's what you do. That's your job. You always want to rush in and be the hero. But when it's not right, have the courage to say, I just don't think it's the right move. And it's really tough. But once you lose that trust with your sales teams and with your corporate partners, I mean, it can go a long way when you say, I am doing us all a favor by telling you no. If once you have that trust, it'll help. And then you can really solve the problem instead of, chasing your tail, trying to throw more and more training, more and more job aids, more and more role plays at people when that's not ever going to be the solution. So only make good training.
Dan.
I was just thinking, I wish Abby had been on our Do It All ID episode. There's so many times where people flail and they're like, fix it, fix it, fix it. And so many times, learning and development rides in on the white horse and is like, I got this. Don't worry about it. I got some plans, and we'll pull together something. We'll cobble together something. And so many times on those asks, we're so far outside of our scope. But this idea of like, I got to solve it. I got to solve it. I got to solve it makes us all the time jump up. And then people come to us and like, solve it, fix it, training it, train it away. But yeah, there's so much that's just not something that should be training. And Abby, you call it out exactly. It erodes trust. If everybody sees a new training every week and they're just like, what's the point? This is going to be just like the training last week. I'm not going to learn anything. It's just wasting my time. Yeah, no. Solid answer, Abby.
Yeah, I think that's a solid answer, but it does go reinforce what I was speaking about just a minute ago, which is practice. Vince Lombardi. You guys know Vince Lombardi, yep. Right? Okay, what was Vince Lombardi? The Green Bay Packers were known for one play. Does anybody know what that is?
No, not here.
I'll help you out. The power sweep. Okay, Vince Lombardi practiced the power sweep. They mastered the power sweep. If you don't know what a power sweep is, just roll with it, okay? It's a football move where everybody goes one way or the other way and runs all over everybody, and then they score touchdowns, right? They practiced that until they couldn't stand it anymore. They could do that move in their sleep. And it wasn't a matter of this week we're going to do this trick play and this week we're going to do that trick play. No, they became masters of what they did. And that's why, one of the reasons why, that they were so good at what they're doing. And so I love what you're saying, Abby, around like, things aren't where they're at. I guess we need another training. I think it's good. I think it takes chutzpah and strong leadership to stand up and say, I'm going to stand behind what I've got. Let's take a look at some of the millions of other reasons why we're not performing. And some of it really is practice and setting expectations and managing to those expectations, right? Because, and listen, I'm all for job security, right? Love job security. Like, I'll make a new sales training every week. And I'm not against having someone tell me my baby is ugly. Okay, this baby is ugly. It's not hitting what needs to be hit. Let's go spend some time out and let's go spend time close to our customers and see what's going on. Let's identify what the real opportunity is, and then let's go ahead and we'll hit it again. So, yeah, that's my 2 cents and a little football knowledge there. So, at any rate, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. And if you have any comments about sales training and how wrong I am, please email me at or email us at learningnerdscast@gmail.com. We'll be happy to read your email and further the discussion. Abby, thanks so much.
Thank you, guys. I had so much fun.
Thanks, Abby.
Oh, we're not done with you. You gotta stick around because it's time, everybody, for our Leadership Minute.
Time for Coach Shooty's Leadership Minute.
Okay, how funny sometimes our leadership minutes match what we're talking about, but today's leadership minute, it's all about taking ownership. Taking ownership. One of the things that I found is that it's really important to take a step back and look in the mirror and take ownership for things that aren't always going the way that it needs to, and then actually going out and fixing it. Our egos are pretty strong things. They want us to feel good all the time, but that's not where the real growth is. And I'm going to encourage you to in the moment where things may be looking like, oh, gee, maybe you screwed up here, maybe things aren't where they're at, or maybe we need another sales training, Abby, that you take ownership in and say, yep, I'm going to accept my part and we're going to move forward, because quite frankly, your leaders and those people you serve will appreciate you for it. That's the Leadership Minute for this week.
Boom! Like, right on target. Like, actually, I think you earned back 3 seconds that you burned last week. So, I mean, like, boom.
Right? Okay, all right. I'm gonna throw a ticker on the bottom of that. I could talk like all night about ownership. I'm a huge ownership guy. Quite frankly, one thing I'll tag on: 3 seconds. Ready? 1, 2, 3. It will change your career. Period. So, with that, Dan, why don't we talk to our audience real quick? How can they connect
absolutely.
with us?
Guys, you can reach us via email at learningnerdscast@gmail.com. Email us any questions you have. Ask if you want to be a guest. Come on. Tell Scott how wrong he is about sales. Whatever you guys got, hit us up. Also, you can find us on Facebook at Learning Nerds. Like us, participate in the conversations we've got going on there. Last but not least, if you're on Instagram, you can find us Fab Learning Nerds. Share whatever groovy stuff you've got, cool pictures, stuff like that. We love it all. We want to see it.
Thank you, Dan. Abby. Woo! Thanks so much for being with us last minute. We really appreciate it. I love all the wisdom you're bringing. And hopefully you can join us again sometime. Would that be good?
I'd love
Fantastic.
All right. Hey, everybody, that's going to be about it tonight. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you like what's going on, bring your friends. Share this podcast. If you're on Google or Apple Podcasts, be sure to write us a review. If it's a good enough review, we'll read it. If it's a crappy review, we'll read it. Until that time, my name's Scott.
I'm Dan.
I'm Abby.
And we're your fabulous learning nerds, and we are out.